You're preparing to be a working musician. What's the first thing that you need to do? Well, you need to have a set list prepared, so you want to get at least 245 minutes worth of songs so that you have enough material to go out and perform live. If you're going out as a solo, you either will use your guitar or your piano, or if you're going out with backing tracks, make sure you have all of those songs prepared and rehearse. You also need to have the right gear. When you are going out as a working musician, you are normally expected to provide your own gear. This is a full PA system. It normally comprises of microphones, your PA, your mixing desks, any other little things, your leads, plectrum, all those things you would need to take with you. When you do get your gear together, make sure that you get gear that is of good value. As they say, buy cheap, buy twice. You want to get really good quality gear. You are going to be carrying it back and forth, in and out the car, to venues, from venues. So if you get gear that is going to break easily, you're going to have to replace it. Once you feel confident with your sets, meaning that you're happy to play them, preferably you know them by heart, it's time to start contacting venues. So, how do we find venues that are offering live music? You can search the internet for venues in your area that offer live music. When you drive around and you drive past a bar or restaurant or pub, see if they advertise live music outside. Word of mouth, ask around. But once you find that somewhere is offering live music as part of their entertainment, that's when you get in touch. You can also go about it through the agency route. Again, you can look online, ask about, find an agent, and that way they can manage your bookings for you. It does have its pros and cons. Normally when you're working with an agency, you are working on their budget and their set times. So there's not that much flexibility, but it does mean that you're offered regular work. Once you've got yourself into an agency, that's of good quality. A good thing that you can do is if you go to a bar or restaurant and they say they only book through a particular agency, you can get in touch with that agency. So maybe take a note, write down who it is, and then get in touch with them yourselves. By having a really good visibility on social media, you will definitely ensure bookings quicker. So make sure that you have really good quality videos of your material, of your performing, and put them on the different means of social media, so the different platforms that you can use. A lot of the time when you go into a bar or restaurant, they will say, are you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Twitter? And you can direct them straight away then and there. If you've got an iPad with you, you can show them then and there you playing, and that way you can really speed things up on the booking. If you are going about looking for bookings yourself, it's really important to manage your expectations. You will have to call venues. If you do ring a venue and they say that they'll ring you back, they won't. They never do. They're too busy, there's too much going on, they already have acts most likely, and to get in touch with anyone normally goes to the bottom of the pile. So it's really important to be proactive. Keep calling, keep phoning. When you do get through to them, make sure you ask to speak to the person who manages the live music. It's no good selling yourself to the person who cleans the floor or who answers the phones but has absolutely no say whatsoever in the live bookings. You want to straight away go to the decision maker. That will really speed up the process as well. Try and speak to them on the phone, or even better, go in and speak to them, because they will remember you. And more often than not, they do have a diary, and if they get the diary out then and there, great, you've got yourself a booking. Make sure that you're always polite to whoever you speak to. If you go in, be polite to everyone. It does go a long way, naturally. If they do take an email address, or you get an email address, that's another good way that you can actually look into booking, because you can send links to your social media and hopefully they will open it, but the best thing to do is go in and speak to them. When you do get your first booking in a new venue, try to invite as many people as you can. It isn't your responsibility to fill a venue, but there's nothing worse than playing to an empty bar, and it will look much better for you to the booker if you have filled the place, you've got people clapping and cheering and appreciating the music. You're much more likely to get a second booking and hopefully further bookings down the line. Get all your friends together, event it on Facebook, and try and just fill the place out. It will always go in your favour. Maintaining regular work. You want to build good relationships. So building relationships with the staff, managers and your agency. If you go to a new venue, introduce yourself, shake everyone's hand, be super polite, try not to use up too much space, be really, really understanding of what they need. It's absolutely fine to ask them, was that fine? Halfway through your set, you can say, are the sound levels okay? At the end of the night, you can say to them, was that all right? Was everything okay? Having really good communication means that you care about your work and you care about it being a good performance for all the guests so that everybody's enjoyed themselves. It will go well in your favour. If you do work through an agency, everything you do is always fed back to them. If you are rude to a member of staff for any reason, it will get fed back. You want to build bridges, not burn them. So make sure that you always do have a really good decorum when you're working. Customers are the whole reason that we have our job. Being a really, really good sport, enjoying yourself, making friends with the customers, making sure they're enjoying themselves is the most important thing. There are boundaries. You don't want it to be too over-familiar that customers think they can come up and start singing with you, because if they can't sing, you'll empty the bar. But you want to make sure that you're having fun. So if you want to have a little chat with people in your breaks, that always goes a long way. People really appreciate it. And having a good relationship with the customers, again, doesn't go unnoticed. If a customer comes up to you and says, I really, really enjoyed your set, the best thing you can do is say, great, go and tell the manager, go and tell them, or when you go to the bar and order your next drink, please let them know that you enjoyed the performance, because that way the manager's gonna know, okay, this is a good duo or this is a good band, I'm going to book them again. Don't be late for a gig. If you've agreed to be there for a certain time, make sure that you are. So always allow plenty of time to arrive, park, carry in your gear, set up in good time, ready for your performance to begin. There's nothing worse than arriving late, both for you and for the venue, because you'll feel really, really stressed out. They're going to wonder where you've been. They've got an audience waiting to be entertained, and if the band's not there, it doesn't look great. If for any reason you are late, your car breaks down, battery dies, you get stuck in horrendous traffic, or you simply can't find the place, all of which have happened to us, make sure you ring them. So if you've got the name of the venue, go online first, make sure you've got the contact details, including their phone number. If anything happens, worst case scenario, make sure that you ring in advance. It can always diffuse any animosity when you arrive. They'll be grateful, they know that you're on your way and you're doing your very best. And when you get there, you won't feel awkward. Having a really, really good rapport with a venue means that you're going to have a great performance. When you go in, just make sure that you are really super confident, super friendly, and you will definitely give a great performance and you're very likely to be booked again. Pricing yourself. This is the interesting part. You need to make sure that you take into account all of the efforts that you've made over the years to get to where you are today. Have you had private music lessons? Have you done other types of performance over the years that have helped you develop in your confidence? How much does your equipment cost? Everything that you buy has to all be factored into what you price yourself at. As I've said before, gear is expensive, and if you buy cheap, you buy twice. That being said, there are things that you're going to have to replace fairly regularly. Strings, leads, plectrums, again, you have to factor that in. It's another cost. It's something else that you're paying for, so your overall figure should reflect that. You need to factor in all of your rehearsal, practice time that you've spent over the years, all that time that you have really, really mastered your craft. Many people hire out studio spaces for rehearsal time as a band or as a group, and it all adds up. Once you've looked at all those overheads, you have to think about your travel cost as well. To and from a venue, that's your wear and tear, that's your fuel. Are there any tolls on the way? What's your parking fare going to be like when you arrive at the venue? So, for example, with our acoustic duo, a lot of our work is over in Liverpool, amazing place that it is, and it does cost quite a lot to get there. So it's a 40-minute drive either way, so that's the fuel. The Mersey Tunnel costs £1.80 per way currently, so we have to factor that in. Once we arrive, there's pretty much nowhere you can park in Liverpool for the 3 hours that we would, at least 3 hours we would need, that doesn't cost any less than £8. Once you add that all in, it does add up. None of this includes your actual performance time. So as I said at the beginning, you'll need at least 45 minutes worth of material, but sometimes it is more. Venues might want a 2-hour set, 2 hours and a half. They might want you to play past midnight. Once you get past midnight, again, those are really unsociable hours. Do you want to increase your fee? That's your decision. The length of time that you perform for will affect your overall fee. So if you're doing a 245-minute set, 2-hour-long set or more, make sure you price yourself accordingly. The location of your venue will also play a big part in what the fee will be. We found that areas vary drastically on what they're willing to pay a musician, and that is understandable. A small country pub that only has a few guests has a completely different budget to, say, a city that has 3 stories, sells really expensive cocktails. They are going to have quite a different budget. Expect that they're only going to be able to pay a musician so much. Days of the week can also play a part in what your fee is. If you're performing midweek, say Monday to Thursday, and sometimes Sundays, the venue might expect you to price yourself lower, whereas a Friday night and a Saturday night, those are peak times, they're unsociable hours, you can make more on a weekend. So that's another thing you have to really think about. If you're performing midweek, you might earn less, but it's still good work. If you perform on a Friday or a Saturday night, you can earn more, but they are unsociable hours. But that's okay. I'm sure you are expecting to work weekends with the nature of the job as a working musician, and it can go on quite late. You can start any time really that the venue asks you to and go way on into the early hours, particularly if somebody shouts encore, and then you might have to play a little bit longer. Again, find out what your venue really wants. They'd be quite happy if you played extra, they'd welcome it, they'd appreciate it. But other times a venue might have a DJ booked afterwards and there's just a 15-minute turnaround that you have to pack your things up ready for the DJ to get into that place. So make sure that you know and you really communicate with the venue as to what they want. If in that case there is somebody that's going to be playing after you, maybe announce your last song 5 minutes early, because someone will always shout another song, or hopefully they will, and that way you can play an extra song but it's still in the time that you were allocated to perform for. So the audience feels like they're getting a little bit extra, but you're sticking in with the venue's schedule. It's really up to you how much flexibility you allow with your fees. You can stick to your guns and risk losing a gig, or you can be a bit more flexible and negotiate a fee that suits you both. If you have an agency, this is their job, and they will have pre-arranged with the venue a fee for the musician based on the set time. So they will offer you the gig with all the information, where it is, how long it's for, and what your fee is. And then you can either accept or refuse the gig, but they've done all the hard work, which is really handy when you have an agency. When you're booking gigs privately between you and venue, you will quote your fee. Perhaps the venue might say it's too high. That might not be what they have in their budget, and it's up to you whether you reduce your fee or whether you lose the gig. I always say it's better to get the work than to not get it, but also you don't want to undersell yourself. You have to make sure that you're happy with the fee that you've been offered, because if it is too low, when you've factored in all those things that you've done, all your overheads, you don't want to waste your time, and gigs where you really feel like you're not earning your money's worth, you will resent. Get a fee that you are happy with. You can have that little bit of leeway, as I've said, because you do want to get the work, you do want to secure work, especially if you're just starting out. You might price yourself a little bit lower just to get the ball rolling, get yourself a name, but don't price yourself too low. Avoid taking any gigs where the venue expects you to perform the first gig for free. You would never go to a restaurant and ask to have a 3-course meal, to try it out, and if you like it in future, you'll eat there again. That wouldn't happen. So why is performing any different? When you go and do your job, it is a specialised skill, you're working really hard. Make sure that you are paid for all of your time. If you have already done a gig for free for a venue, then it might give the impression that you don't value yourself at the rate that you quoted, and they might expect you to do gigs for cheaper in the future. So sometimes they can be a little bit cheeky. Make sure you are firm. You are a working musician, you should be paid accordingly. When we began our acoustic duo, what we did was go around the venues and get a rough idea of what the fee was that they were paying people. Then we either quoted that fee or ever so slightly lower just to get ourselves started. It gave us a rough idea of what the going rates were in each area, and we were able to price ourselves fairly but make sure we maintain the gigs. We wanted lots of work at the beginning. We wanted to build ourselves a name. When you go to a new venue, you can say, I've played here, 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 different places. It looks good. When you're already working and you've already got plenty of gigs lined up, a venue will be more interested in you. So if you can say, oh, we're playing in this venue in a few weeks' time, maybe you could pop and see us, then at least the venue knows, okay, this duo or this band, they're already working. They're obviously professional musicians. Especially when you're just starting out, if you do price yourself ever so slightly lower, you might make more. When you get more confident in what you're doing and you are working regularly, then it's time to maybe think about pricing yourself higher. As the years went by and we grew in our performance skills and also built a name for ourselves and a bit of a following, people were recognising our band name, we were then able to price ourselves slightly higher because we were a little bit more in demand. Remember, this is a job. It is a real job and you should be paid for it. It's a hard job. It's a lot of work. There is a lot of pressure. You are expected to really multitask at times, which leads me into my next topic. Every venue has got a different vibe that they're going for. So make sure before you go and perform at a venue, you do your research. It's no good turning up with a really lively rock set list only to arrive and it be a really low-key, chilled out restaurant. You can always look up the venue online these days. They've all got websites, they're most likely on Facebook. So make sure that when you do get your new booking, that you're very well prepared to fit into the style that they're looking for. Or better yet, you can ring the venue, you've booked it through an agency, you can still contact the venue directly, introduce yourself, and just ask what they're looking for so that when you get there, you can provide exactly the style of entertainment that the venue is looking for. A venue has hired a live musician for a reason. It is a fantastic way at creating a really good atmosphere. So make sure that you do that. Try not to look bored. Even if you gig 3 or 4 times a weekend, you're still having to give as good a performance on that Sunday as you did on the Thursday night. The guests that have come to see you deserve a good performance. Don't look tired, don't look bored. Make sure that you really look like you're having a good time, otherwise how will they? You want to make sure that you dress accordingly for the venue also. Make sure you're not overdressed and equally don't be underdressed for a venue. You don't want to look too casual or too slovenly. Some bars you can wear whatever you want. Again, in those scenarios you don't want to be overdressed, otherwise you might be quite embarrassed. You want to look like a trendy guest, someone that would frequent that bar or restaurant. Make sure that you really fit in your attire. So, you forget your lines in the middle of a song, you cough in the middle of a song, you arrive and the venue has double booked you, the venue's got absolutely no memory of booking you in the first place. All of these have happened to us and many, many more mishaps. What do? Try and carry on and maintain a professional demeanour no matter what. If a member of staff is rude to you, don't rise to it. You stay professional. You don't want any bad blood. You don't want to burn any bridges. They might just be having a bad day. If you are polite, normally it softens people. And you never know, if you were rude to a member of staff and in the future you go to a new venue, for all you know, they could be working there. So never burn any bridges. You always maintain your decorum. Try and be polite no matter what. If a venue has double booked you, again, be polite. Try and ask how it's happened. If it's happened through your agency, refer it back to them. If it's happened privately, have a really good line of communication in the hope that that won't happen again. You might even be able to come to an agreement that the next time you gig, they will pay you double or they'll pay you for time and a half. It is worth asking the question, especially if you've travelled a long way. If you do cough in the middle of a song, you forget your words, you forget what you're playing, your partner forgets what they're playing, just don't worry about it. Carry on, don't stop, don't look at each other, don't make a scene. It's so unlikely that anyone will notice. If you just keep on going, remember when you are a live performer, it doesn't sound exactly like the original version of a song anyway. For all the audience knows, that's your creative spin. Don't make it obvious. Don't get upset with each other, just move on, carry on, laugh it off afterwards and everything will be fine. Don't be discouraged if a venue doesn't work out for you. You are not going to suit every single venue that you play in. That's absolutely fine. Music is so subjective. You can't expect to go into every single venue and be just what they want. It's just not feasible. Sometimes you might have been playing in a venue for years You might have a really, really good rapport. You might even have guests that come and watch you regularly, and the managers, they don't want to book you again for whatever reason. You just have to cut your losses and move on. Again, don't be rude. You could ask them, what was it? Is there anything that I can work on? But expect them to give you an honest answer. They might say that you just don't fit the brief anymore, that they're having to cut back on music, or they might just say that they don't like you. It happens, it's okay. There are plenty of the venues out there where you're going to fit in, you're going to do an amazing job, and the audience are going to love you. Don't take it personally, cut your losses and move on. Some venues will offer you drinks, some venues will offer you a meal, some venues have even offered us a night's stay in the past. Everyone is different, everyone has, again, a different budget. It's worth checking out in advance what is expected, what will be included in your performance. This is professionally known as a rider. Most venues will just say it's a free pint or free drinks, whatever it is that they are happy to give you. It's really important that you don't expect it and that you don't ask for it. If you do work through an agency, when they offer you a gig, normally they will include what the venue normally offers, which can be sometimes soft drinks included, but it might not even be that, it could just be water. Sometimes you might even struggle to get a glass of water if they're that busy. So make sure you know in advance what it is that will be included. If you're performing over busy times and holidays, things like that, more often than not, a venue will include a meal. If you are waiting around in the afternoon, say you've set up and then there's a waiting time, they might include a meal, and that's at their discretion. But again, whatever you do, don't ask the venue, because it can come across as quite rude. You can ask if there's somewhere down the road that you can pick up food, and they might say, oh no, you can have something to eat with us. But don't expect anything, because presumptuousness, it's never attractive. If you are offered free drinks, again, try not to milk it too much. Make sure that you are polite and you don't abuse the system. That being said, some venues are super generous. Those are the venues that you're going to enjoy the most. They might not let your glass go empty. We've had venues in the past that have just been so good to us that we had to, in the end, say, no, we don't want anything else to drink. And that's just their style. And aren't they wonderful for doing that? But it's not everyone, it's not every venue. Be really, really grateful to those venues, and those are the ones that you're going to want to perform at again. So try not to milk the system too much. Politely accept their drinks, but nothing too much, because you still want to give a good performance. So when you're drinking alcohol and performing, bear that in mind. Your safety is of the most importance. The nature of this kind of work means that you're generally working night times in close proximities with lots of people. People are going to be around you, sometimes right up close to you, and often under the influence of alcohol. And you need to be very mindful of your own surroundings for your safety. If people do get too close, be very, very careful that they don't damage your equipment. If someone drunkenly stands on a piece of equipment and breaks it, they're not going to pay for it. They're just going to dance off and forget about it. So make sure you're very, very aware of who is around you. If someone looks like they really have had too much to drink and there's a high chance that they might fall on you or fall on a piece of your equipment, politely ask them to step away, or if that fails and there's a manager at the bar or a doorman, try and get their attention, because you don't want anyone damaging your gear. It's unlikely that you will get your money back for any damages. More importantly than gear is your own safety. I can't count the amount of times when someone has been dancing so close to me that the microphone has actually hit me in the mouth. Or even when I was heavily pregnant, someone elbowed me because they were so close. They don't even notice. They're very unaware of what's going on. That's why it's worth speaking to the staff beforehand if it is a busy venue, or you can introduce yourself to the doorman or the bouncer, whoever is monitoring the crowds, just to make sure that they can keep an eye on you, and if anything does escalate, they're there, ready to help you out. More often than not, it's just guests out to have a good time and a dance. If you are just friendly with them and just politely ask them to move away or to just be careful of the gear, that can be enough, and it doesn't have to escalate into anything more serious. If you are going to a new venue and you're not familiar with the area, it is worth to look that up online in advance, particularly if you're a solo performer and you're parking quite far away from the venue and it's late at night. If you are on your own and you're having to go all the way back to your car in the dark, don't let yourself be put into any situations where anything could go wrong. The staff will help you bring gear in if you ask them to. A member of staff can see that you get back to your car safely, because remember, people do know that this job, more often than not, is cash in hand. So don't put yourself in a compromising situation when you've left the venue and you're vulnerable to any targets. If you do go to a new venue, take friends with you, take family with you, people that can help you carry your gear in. They can be with you, they can make sure that you're safe so that you don't have any concerns and you can really enjoy your job. When you get to the point where you are just performing without any enjoyment, perhaps overkill, having done too many gigs, it's time to take a little bit of a break. Maybe you've gigged several times a weekend for quite a few years and you've just lost the joy for it. Your performance might become a little bit stale. One thing that you can do is change up your set. We always find if we add new songs, it gives us a little shake, it makes us fresh. We have to think a little bit more rather than resting on our laurels and letting our performance become stale. So don't be lazy as a musician. Make sure you are updating your set list all the time because it does keep it fresh and you have to think a little bit more. You want to be awake in your performance. So if you find that your mind really is wandering, all you can think about is what you're going to eat next, you're just people watching and you're not thinking about it anymore, that does show on your face. So if it gets to a point when this is really just a mundane job, take a little break. You can have a few weeks off, you can have a few months off. I know that sounds a bit scary when it is a big source of income, but it is supposed to be enjoyable. You are entertainment, you're supposed to be having a good time. So if you get to the point where it's just not fun anymore, have a little break. You'll be worlds better for it. So I hope you found this tutorial interesting and helpful. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions or if you have anything that you would like to add to what I've said, any working musicians out there that have found anything helpful. Also, please subscribe to my channel and give me a like. I am Sophie on vocals from the Murphy School of Music.